When you hear some lyrics, it takes you just a couple of lines to realize it's beginner songwriting. Do you ever wonder why? Here's 5 mistakes noobs and amateurs tend to make when writing song lyrics. By the way, I'm Vadusha and I'm the greatest songwriting expert in the entire world, and maybe even on YouTube. As always, I'll let this version of me go ahead and make some noob mistakes while we go online, find some amateur and beginner lyrics, and see if there's anything common in these lyrics that makes you instantly aware it's amateur and beginner lyrics. Off we go! There has to be some place people post their lyrics to get some feedback. So, lyrics, feedback, forum, lyrics only, feedback, muse, what? I'm in no position to critique the lyrics. I'm in no position to say if I like the lyrics or not. We're just gonna find some common trends in beginners and amateur lyrics that are obvious throughout the examples that we see today. The very first obvious thing that makes lyrics beginner lyrics is using level 1 association. That is, when you take your topic you write the song about and you free associate out from the topic. Beginners tend to take the very first round of associations. For example, there's a song named Her, probably about love. Let's free associate and take the very first things that come to my mind. She is most likely a female, so I would guess a dress, beautiful, angel, probably love, forever, gentle, feelings or something. Yeah, that's the very first level of associations, and beginners tend to never go out from there. Let's see if I'm right. Why do you love her but not me? Okay, so it's loving somebody else. That's a twist. Let's go back. Love her, not me. Prefer, good enough, perfect, and probably somebody's fighting. Friend zone. See somebody as a friend. Let's go. Love her, you see love. Softly, okay? Softly is almost gentle. Fight for my love. There you go. Impress. That's a very level 1 association. My best dress. Okay, why'd you see me as your friend? Sing my song, show my world, understand. These are very level 1 associations. They don't stray away far from the central topic. We could expand on some of them. So softly, you could go beyond that. Pillow, Elvis, tenderly, first snow, Christmas snow, feathers, grandma's socks. You get the idea. You go one step beyond, get level 2 associations. You could say gentle, soft, using very different, more poetic language. Let's see if we find anything else. The Little Light of Mine. It's about a child leaving home. Trip, airplane, goodbyes, luggage. These are all level 1 associations, not too poetic. Empty nest, very cliche. And cliches are exactly what level 1 associations are. It's the very first things you think about when you hear a topic. Testing the wings and leaving the nest are very cliche. Let's see if there's anything else. Myths, I believe. This is about believing in love when love didn't eventually end up well. Smiles upon faces. That is very literal. Pieces of my heart. These are all superficial in terms of how deep you dig in the topic. The Myths, I believe, is a very strong title. It implies something. It does seem like there's gonna be some depth behind the lyrics. So we could go with the actual myths. So if our initial idea was love is a myth, instead of going pretending, letting down, lying, instead of that we could go Greek myths, and that expands the whole universe to us. We could go Aphrodite, Hercules, and there's characters there. You could use the characters to create a metaphor around love being a myth, you believing in that, and then your expectations being defied. Religion is a collection of myths. You could start from there. Love is a part of religion. All-loving God. And then seeing all the cruelty in the world, all the poverty, all the bad things happening. And that define your expectations of an all-loving God. And comparing your love interest to an all-loving God would be a good metaphor. Instead of just saying, I'm pretending to be myself, or you let me down, or somebody lied or cheated. Mythbusters. That implies some comedy there, so you could be more comedic if you wanted to. You could go on forever with that. As soon as you go beyond level 1 associations and step out to level 2, going less superficial, going more in depth, it gets way more interesting. The lyrics become tailored to yourself. These lyrics here could have been written by anybody. Not to say that's a bad piece of art, but going beyond level 1 associations could turn this into something very different, very poetic. Something more lyrically valuable. Right, you get the idea. Level 1 associations. Go beyond that, use level 2 associations, expand on them to find topic crossovers and nice metaphors, nice imagery. When I say a piece of lyrics could have been written by anybody, there's something that intensely contributes to it. And that is preferring generic over specific. Let's find something that is specific in this piece of lyrics. Weekend moment, I called you, something I swore, landscape was calm, what, teasing you with fantasies. I hoped would come true? What fantasies? What promises did she or he not deliver against? Get up every morning, go to work. Even saying going to office or going to McDonald's or somewhere specific would instantly brighten up this passage. Instead of saying I get up every morning, we could pick a certain fragment of the morning routine, like brushing teeth, or could say every time I hear the alarm clock, and naming the tune playing would be even a more specific thing that could paint the canvas a bit more. Let's see if the little light of mine could use some of that. Text tied to your luggage, to your bag, probably leather bag, or something that could give us a little bit of a characteristic, something that could let us associate ourselves with the character. We're not seeing the character through that. Very, very generic. That's literally any child leaving home. Mentioning the means of transportation, an airport or a bus stop or a train station would specify the situation, letting me feel like I'm in the situation. The her. Who? Her. This dress. Even if that was a blue dress or red dress or any other kind of dress, some specific dress. When you mention objects, specificity of your objects is a crucial thing for lyrics being more interesting. Let's see if any other lyrics. They don't see us. Tight laces, dirty faces, can't fit in within the crowd. That's kind of specific. Picking out specific details. Fancy cars. This could be a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something. I could instantly draw an image of a fancy car. Instead of saying fancy cars, name a specific fancy car. That's something beginners do. You get the idea, right? When you name something, you name an object, you name a situation, the more specific it is, the easier it is for the listener to associate themselves with the situation or with the object, to paint in their head a picture of what's going on. On the other hand, being too specific makes the song not pop music-ish, because you have to appeal to a broad audience. So specific details help the lyrics, but having everything sprinkled with specificity makes lyrics very hard to relate to, because you target them down to a very, very narrow audience. But from what we've seen, nobody is being too specific. More often than not, they're being too vague. Beginner mistake number 3 is rhyming first. When you write a poem or a piece of lyrics, first you come up with ideas, with punchlines, with endings, with fancy metaphors, and then you put them on paper. And then you rhyme them with something. Rhyming is the very, very last thing you do when writing some lyrics. Because when you're trying to rhyme first, you're limiting what you're capable of in terms of songwriting. When you say proud here, you're kind of limited to what you're gonna have here in the strongest position in the whole verse. At the very end of the verse that should punch, you're limited to a list of words that rhyme with proud. And it seems like this idea here is the key idea of the song. So should it not be in the strongest position? My guess is this just went proud and put it here. Never rhyme first. That's some advice I wish I had had when I started writing my own lyrics. This could be more interesting if the person first thought of ideas and then thought of rhyming them. Let's see if it's the same with the other lyrics. Dress, impress, lure, adore. These seem very weak lines. Probably the person was trying to rhyme very hard, wasting all the thinking resource on rhyming. Feels like the person came up with short point, sun, begun. That's the kind of rhyming you do when you rhyme first. This here seems like it's being crafted. Just compare it to what we've just seen. When you have the song title in your chorus, in the strongest position in the chorus, this little light of mine, and you rhyme backwards, you get a better piece of lyrics. It ties together well and it forms better lyrics. And when I speak of rhyming first, I mean that it leads to not having the right ideas in the right places through the lyrics. Normally, these kind of beginner lyrics tend to have their punchlines, their ideas, their strongest thoughts and most poetic metaphors in weaker positions. So this one, let's fix this one, right? There's the idea of people thinking other people are lower in class than them. So there's underappreciated kind of people, never feeling proud, which is the key idea of the song. You just change these two lines, swap them, makes some difference there. So pay very, very close attention to where you're putting your punchlines. Let's take a look at this little passage right here. Because love meant something different to me than it did to you. Probably different is the key idea here. Our views on love were different. And this than it did to you, it tags out. You don't really need to hear that to understand the idea. We really need to get rid of that. Then take this because love to me meant something different. That's the strongest it's gonna get, right? And then you rhyme backwards. You come up with a rhyme to different and to me. You could go considerate, I never did consider it. Never did I ever see, never did consider it. But now I know that love to me means something very different. You rhyme backwards, it frames nicely. Not only the result is more clear, not only the punch is hitting harder, the songwriting process gets streamlined. It's just easier to write this way. Get your ideas down and then you rhyme backwards, put your ideas in stronger positions. It's easier to write, it's easier to comprehend, to listen to, and to appreciate the effort, to appreciate the creative ideas. All the previous ones were kind of technical. Mistake number 5 is having static lyrics. No dynamics at all, no development, no storytelling. So just take a look at that. People never feeling proud with a lot of problems. Then there's some opposite people who are thinking they're better than us. Then again, people with torn out socks, shoes with rocks. Nothing changes as opposed to this verse here. Same imagery, same ideas. Poor people trying to survive with no rights. Here again, poor people trying to survive with no rights. Nothing changes. This little bridge is kind of supposed to turn it upside down, but it never does. It feels like the pressure is boiling and it's about to explode. Probably verse 2 could bring us to the very point of blowing the thing up, and bridge probably could give a resolution or something. But it doesn't happen. They just describe the same situation with different words, no dynamics. The suffering of these people, the anger of these people doesn't get stronger. They're just angry and suffering, and then they're angry and suffering, and then they're angry and suffering. How interesting of a story is that? So, dynamics, the myths, I believe. A bit of storytelling here. We feel a bit of sadness in verse 1, a bit more sadness in verse 2, and then some more sadness. It doesn't resolve. There's no resolution to this sadness. This one is an example of some development, right? So, storytelling and development bring this to life. Imagine what would happen if all of the 5 mistakes had been fixed, not just the storytelling part. A good exercise is to find some of your older lyrics, read through them and cringe. See if there's any of these mistakes in your older lyrics. Could that be why you cringe over your older material? Let's go to a random page, like 6. Let's see if we find all 5 in this one. So first, using level 1 associations, where words fail. This is about a couple breaking up again. Died, trapped, hate, fate. These are all level 1 associations. Goodbye. This is not the only end. The relations ended, and that's level 1 association. But even if you take level 1 associations and put them in strong position, and the ending of the song is the strongest position possible. So you put it right here, you rhyme it backwards. The person had to be creative to go around that, and it turned out to be a nice metaphor. And overall, it's very generic. Nothing really specific here. Probably drowning in the quicksands is the only specific thing here. So this is very superficial. There's no dynamics in there. Nothing changes. It's just hopelessness, the feeling of something ending, feeling of being upset. It doesn't get stronger or weaker. It doesn't get different. It just stays through the song, which is probably boring to listen to when you listen to a song, when it doesn't evolve. Alright, so here are the 5 mistakes beginners tend to make. Number 1 is using level 1 associations, being too superficial, not digging deeper in the topic. This kind of leads to number 2 is being too generic, not specific. Because if you say he smokes cigarettes, that's one thing. And if you say he smokes Marlboro, it gets more specific and it characterizes the character. And it deepens the character, giving them extra traits. Number 3 is coming up with rhymes first, without thinking of anything else. Rhyming can be a good exercise, but in the long run, it sure will lead you to fearing the blank page and experiencing the writer's block. Because first you come up with ideas, and once you have them, you rhyme backwards. That's how it works. It's way easier, and it makes the lyrics more interesting. Number 4 is punchlines being in weak positions. So these ideas you just came up with, put them in the strongest positions possible and then rhyme backwards. That's the whole point of songwriting. Think of it as of telling jokes. Almost any joke is a setup and a punchline. If you know the punchline ahead, the joke is no longer valuable to you. You know the ending. It's like movie spoilers. You don't want to know the spoilers until you've seen the movie. So put your spoilers at the very, very final position. And last but not least is static lyric writing. Not having dynamics in your lines, in your paragraphs, in your passages, in your verses and choruses. If the song is about love, the love is not getting stronger through verses, or if the song is about pain, the pain is not getting stronger and then overwhelming and then releasing. If it's not there, the lyrics are gonna sound amateur. And don't get me wrong, we've all been beginners. We've all made these mistakes. The only people who don't make mistakes are people who do nothing. So I totally respect the authors of these lyrics we've reviewed today. And I sincerely wish them all a ton of creative success. And I wish all of you creative success because you're awesome. You are.